So since I have some experience with cemetery and funeral home operations, and I have a perspective therefore regarding how people visit memorial places regarding loved ones, and had some experience dealing with remembrances of people after the fact. Someone asked me, how do I feel about memorial places, like let's say the 9/11 memorial, or when you pass by the highway and you see flowers next to the spot where someone died in a car wreck. What are my thoughts on that? Again, worth what you paid for it, but it depends, I think. You look at, let's say, the USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor. Well, here was a case of a ship that sank. It wound up entombing a lot of soldiers at that particular location, and it became a wonderfully well done memorial to all of them, and a reminder for all of us regarding the history of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. And yet, so too, the ship at the time in December 7, 1941, was so huge that it couldn't have been moved anyway. There was no way to repurpose that site for anything else. That's a little bit different than, let's say, someone trying to memorialize a hotel room where a loved one killed themselves, or trying to take a little corner of a sidewalk somewhere up against a guardrail to memorialize where a loved one was killed by a drunk driver. In those cases, it can be a little bit cumbersome for the ability of other people to move on. And then you wind up with something like 9/11, where yes, it was a horrible tragedy, but also it's prime real estate that could be repurposed for further uplifting the condition of mankind to something else. I think it is a site-specific thing. And often, I asked my father, who used to be in the medical profession, how did he feel about passing by flowers on the side of the road to memorialize a dead loved one due to a car wreck? And part of him said, I feel for the family, but the other part of me is like, it's kind of silly, and just your luck, that distracts a driver and winds up killing someone else. I think a good perspective would be, there's a place and a time for memorializing loved ones, or preserving heritage and history associated with a great event, even if it's a great tragic one, like the graveyard at the Battleground Memorialization at the Battle of Gettysburg. Wonderful usage of space. But then again, there's other instances where it's just become memorializing people that are no longer there, they're not interred there, they're no longer consecrated ground, if you will. And for those instances, I think it's better to try to find a place in an already existing burial site or memorial garden to further memorialize particular loved ones, to give loved ones a place to go, to give family members a place to visit in safety. It is a site-specific thing, and it also is a case-by-case basis, but, gee whiz, I'm sure there's been tragic deaths on Fifth Avenue that could not be memorialized there because time marches on and Fifth Avenue real estate's pretty high priced. So too, I know there have been people who drowned at the beach. And if it was a private beach, maybe they memorialized a grain of sand for them, but then again, if it was one of the top 10 beaches in the world, it's best not to make that a burial ground. It's better to memorialize elsewhere. So, I guess the short answer is it's a case-by-case basis. But if you find yourself trying to memorialize something that's going to wind up being a danger to others, or wind up being a nuisance or silly to others, you're not doing your loved ones any good. You're really not. Love them, remember them for who they were, keep their memory alive through actions and ceremony, but you don't have to occupy real estate for every single memory you've had. Work what you pay for.